Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a Premier League presentation. Bring you guys a game between 3D Clan and Fnatic Raid Call. Happy to bring you this game. It's Blaze and Rainmaker. How's it going, man?
Hey, it's going really great. I'm excited to see both these teams, and I'm really pumped to be in the game. We were talking about how Ice Clan, or now known as 3D Clan, came through the open bracket, and they put on a stunning performance, especially in their games versus Icy Cup. I felt like they really showed their strength and their ability to both play for a super aggressive early game and like no hesitancy to go and pick into late game carries such as an anti-mage. I'm curious to see what face of 3D Clan we'll see today, and with the Keeper of the Light, I'm going to say they are probably going to try to pull it into a later game.
Yeah, most definitely. Keeper Light is really great in the sense that not only can you control the lane and kind of guarantee some farm for the carry, whether through the Illuminate harassment to push others off the lane, the Chakra Magic to keep everybody sustained very effectively, or the Recall to allow your carry to just continuously farm, and be ready to go 3 seconds later in the middle of a fight if needed. So that's, yeah, really great hero to set up a carry player like Nexus to just go for it. Just go, okay, we want to go late game, we want to have a very hard, scalable carry, and the Phantom Lancer is going to be that hero of choice. Has a 4.2 agi gain.
These are really
game.
fast picks.
Yeah, it's going to be really quickly, actually, surprisingly. But honestly, they're all really good selections here. The Lifesteal taken out of the hands of Nexus. That's one of his iconic heroes there. Not going to have that option as that and Darkseer are picked up here. But then the Phantom Lancer and Rubik to counteract that a little bit. Stealing the Vacuum could be very effective, but PL, Keeper Light, Rubik, very solid tri-lane on the bottom lane, presumably, for the Radiant here. And then Undying to counter it. Do you think they want to go for an aggressive tri-lane here, or...?
Yeah, I think that, it's generally best, the most useful part of the most useful lane for Undying is that long lane. Oh my, here, hold on 1 second. I'm getting a very robotic sound coming in, so I'm gonna go fix that before I keep talking.
No problem at all. So along those lines, we do have some really quick drafting, like we said, but it's kind of like reflex. They know kind of what they wanted to go with going on into it, so Keeper Light, Phantom Lancer, that's a classic combo. You spam out the Spirit lanes, you have the Chakra Magic to keep it going, and from there you're able to set it up so that there's tons of magic damage going on the opposition. Now heroes that are really good against that are like the Lifestealer. He can rage on out of it as it's pretty predictable, the projectile there. He will still take some right-click damage from the illusion, but in the laning sense, he'll be alright generally speaking. The issue is he doesn't have unlimited mana next to the Phantom Lancer, whereas if Keeper of the Light gets that Chakra Magic rank 2 at level 3, the Phantom Lancer could care less about his pool, just keeps on spamming it out on CD and it'll work out pretty well there. But Undying is still one of those carries that is just so effective 3v3, and it just really sets them up for huge amounts of success if they want to go for an aggressive tri-lane or even a defensive one. They're going to have full control of that lane. But if there's a 3v3 skirmish, I'm going to be curious how it works out there, because Undying, they don't really have any way of countering the Tombstone right now. They don't have a Gyrocopter Flak Cannon or maybe even like an Axe for the counter Helix, those kinds of things. So looks like Rainmaker's coming back on in. Then we'll get back on into it. How's it going, man?
Hey, yeah, I'm back, and I think everything should be fixed right now. So we're going and seeing some really great bans coming out from 3D Clan, by the way. By getting rid of all of these supports that combo very well with the Lifestealer, especially the Venomancer just goes and sets up for a lot of slow and gives a very aggressive tri-lane. The Lifestealer, between open wounds and that Venomous Gale, you can very easily go and mow down any of the enemy supports. Also, Poison Nova stacks very well with the Darkseer's kind of AoE toolkit, and the Undying's Tombstone. It's just a lot of gradual AoE damage and gives a lot of room for the Lifestealer to go and farm up during the early game, because you have these very strong early game supports. Are you there, please?
Yeah, sure. So, the bans out right now are very supportive on the side of 3D Clan. They know they only have the Undying, and so range disabling supports to set up that kind of initiation is what they're looking for. They still have the Twin-Headed Dragon Jakiro available if that's what they want to look for, but otherwise Venomancer, Shadow Demon, Leshrac, those are great heroes to pick off so that you don't have to worry about a very painful 3v3, but a very interesting pick coming on out, the Doom. That is just something that's, I'm not even sure how they're going to lane, if they want to go for a solo mid Doom, possibly. I mean, that's how he was very classically laned, but generally speaking, he has some potential in the jungle as well, so I'm not exactly sure how they want to make this happen, but the fact of the matter is, it's a great hero to add to the lineup in general. The Scorched Earth buff allows him to maybe go for like a Necronomicon and go for a little bit more push-oriented type play, but the big thing is his ultimate. It's very powerful disable. The Doom is a long-duration silence for items and abilities, and you can put that down on a number of different heroes and completely take them off the board. You can take out the Darkseer, you take out even the Lifestealer, he still will be able to auto-attack very effectively, but the fact that he can't rage nullifies his potential to negate any magical disables therein. So, interesting pickup there, but I'm curious to see how it'll work.
Yeah, I think also they were picking the Doom. That definitely protects their Storm Spirit, but I don't know if Fnatic would have gone for a Doom against an opposing Storm Spirit from 3D Clan. But this team, it's a lot of very potent early game heroes between the Storm Spirit and the Doom. When these heroes hit level 6, they'll be able to apply a lot of pressure to the enemies. And that gives a ton of space for the Phantom Lancer to start farming. On the other hand, Fnatic's gone for a very much more aggressive early game strategy. The Visage provides a lot of nukes. The Lone Druid Bear is great for pushing down towers, and the Undying and Darkseer make it very difficult to teamfight. They also have a fairly strong late game between the Lone Druid and the Lifestealer, going and doing a ton of damage even as the game continues. But I think they will try to go and end the game within somewhere between 35 to 45 minutes, because after that, the Phantom Lancer will start to take over the game.
Most definitely, most definitely. And sorry guys, I'm under a few allergies for today, but hopefully it won't be that big of an issue on the cast. As far as the most recent pickup, Storm Spirit's a very versatile and mobile hero that'll allow them to take control of the map in general, do some long-range ganking, but I'm really most interested in this pickup of the Visage. On No Tail, he's known for hero pickups such as Meepo. He's really solid at the micro in general, and so I'm curious to see what he can pull out with this hero specifically. It's not traditionally his role of supportive play, but the fact is, if he can use those familiars to great effect, then it could be a really, really great pick for them, and I'm curious to see how that'll work out as they move forward. And they are definitely going to go for the aggressive tri-laner here. Undying and Visage are kind of the unrefuted champions of 3v3. They're just complete dominating in that sense, king of the ring, when it comes down to those big skirmishes, whether it's the sustainability and area denial of the Tombstone or the huge burst out of that Soul Assumption. I'm really looking forward to see what they can come out with this kind of a powerful aggressive tri-lane.
Yep, and it looks like they're going to run into each other at level 1. The Undying, I feel, is going to really make it difficult for the Radiant to engage here, and it looks like they are indeed going to back off. None of their heroes are terribly effective at level 1. They don't have any stuns. Rubik's skills telekinesis, that's really all they have. So I do not believe the Radiant is going to be able to contest this.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, they have full control right here, especially with like Iron Chill and the Spirit Bear. Those factors coming into play make it so that there's really no way to contest it unless they're doing some little cat and mouse play like we're seeing with these Illuminates, with the Fade Bolts. They kind of do some long-range harassment and just try to force the enemy away. So that will work out for them. And in the meantime, Hani looks like he's going to go for that solo top, presumably, while Trixie hits up the mid lane. And then, of course, most of their emphasis is going to be on this bottom here with Era, No Tail, and Fly.
Yeah, and again, this lane has a ton of damage, especially with that open wounds picked up on the Lifestealer. Even at level 1, they can go for a kill. The Visage, very smartly, has not yet skilled anything, and if they find themselves in a position where they're going to need that extra nuke, I'm sure that No Tail will go for that. But it's also important to note that when you have a Lifestealer, if he gets level 2 early, sometimes all you will need is a little bit more slow to get the kill. Level 1 Soul Assumption, it does a ton of damage, but the mana cost is fairly prohibitive.
And now coming on in, Era does have open wounds if he wants to go on out. They have full vision of this with the current wards, but we do actually see some sentry action coming out of the Undying, getting a kill on this Observer Ward before the sentry expires. Helps them out quite effectively. They saw where the placement was, and there was also a sentry ward out here, but it's just kind of little games where back and forth they're trying to control the runes and such, and specifically the pull camp is the main priority there. Up on top, Lolico, who generally plays support, is going to go on that off lane and play up top there, up 1 versus 1 against the Lone Druid, which generally in my mind would favor the Lone Druid, but looking at these sentry wards, it's actually really unfortunate for Solo. He's cutting down all these trees, used 2 tangos just to try to find out this Observer Ward, but the pole blocker is actually to the southeast and is going to actually negate that. Now we do see engagement. Era trying to do some damage here, and they're going to force him to pop the Doppelwalk early. The reason why that's such a big deal is 150 mana cost at rank 1. It really, really limits how aggressively he can play. Of course, Solo will soon be able to infuse with Chakra Magic very frequently, but for the time being, definitely on the back foot.
Yeah, also one good thing to note is Nexus actually hadn't skilled that entire time. He only took Doppelwalk once he realized it was necessary, and that's just a hallmark of a good player, making sure not to go and commit to a skill build just in case you need that escape. You see that a lot on a hero like Potom, where, you know, you might need Arrow, you might need Starcall for an additional nuke, but you always want to have access into that leap. Skilling a little bit too early is fairly dangerous. Same thing with Windrunner. It also seems that this mid lane is going in the favor of Trixie. I don't know how well a Storm Spirit's going to be able to solo against a Darkseer. It's fairly difficult. Once the bottles come out, he'll be able to do a bit better. It seems like he already has the bottle. He might be forced to bottle crow a bit, and he just desperately wants to get to that level 6 so he can be a little bit more active on the map. I do feel, however, that the Darkseer will win this lane fairly handily.
Sure, sure. In the meantime, though, as far as last hits go, definitely no surprise at all, Lone Druid up on the top of the charts. Then the mids are fairly even, and then coming down on bottom, the left still has a bit of an advantage. We do see Open Wounds going out on solo. They pop off the tombstones, so they're really committing to this one, and the Soul Stones are doing so much damage. This is going to be first blood for sure. Now going back up, they're looking a little bit at Rubik, but not going to be able to finish him off or anything like that. Just making sure that Nexus doesn't get the last hit on the tombstone is the intention here, but he does get, Rubik does get it. Popping off the Sentry, Nexus is going to drop with the Soul Assumption. Really, really nice timing of the Sentry. He tried to go in and think the double walk would save him, killing off all the zombies, but unfortunately that Sentry Ward being sufficient to bring him down for 2 kills in favor of Fnatic.
Yeah, and now Fnatic's in a terrible position. When you pick heroes like Rubik and Coddle, you expect them to get you expect them to shut down the enemy tri lane and to get a lot of farm from the pulls, because both Rubik and Coddle, if you stack the hard camp for example, just 2 of their nukes will clear it, and it's just a lot of experience going towards your supports. This Rubik is sitting at level 2, and if he doesn't get a well-timed level 6 to start being very effective with that spell steal, his capability as a hero is fairly neutered.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. In the meantime, Lolico is getting some decent experience up on the top lane, going for a Scorch Earth-oriented build, so we're not going to see those quick nukes coming out of level !death, but it also means that he doesn't have to be too reliant on mana. But either way, it's still going to 100% go the way of Hani. Now that that Orb of Venom is up, he can harass Doom over and over and over, and even with his recent slight armor buff, it still seems to be insufficient for him to reasonably sustain on the lane here.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see this Doom go for a little bit more of a supportive role than you'd see in a general game. Perhaps something like disassembling the Tranquil Boots into a Vlad's, maybe picking up a Necro Book, which goes very well with the new Scorched Earth, which will provide its movement speed bonus to your allied units. So between a Necro Book and a Vlad's, that's a lot of support for this Phantom Lancer, who is not doing particularly well now, and he will need some kind of items like that. Maybe even a Django would be helpful, just stack auras on the Doombringer.
Very true, very true. So, in the meantime, first, the 4-minute rune will actually go toward the Darkseer. He'll pick up the Invis there. Not going to be able to do too much with it aggressively, but the fact is, he's able to at least control it so that Sorcerer has to Bottle Crow if he wants to sustain actively in the lane. In the meantime, Lone Druid just gaining such an advantage down up on top, controlling so well that the Doombringer has to run off his tower, pop off Scorch to the Salve just to survive, and that's moving in towards the Spirit Bearer now having Demolish, can easily right-click down this tower very, very rapidly, and just make it hell for the Doombringer. So, that's going to be setting it up so that the entire team can get a lot of tower gold, on top of the fact that they're already dominating pretty well kill-wise on the bottom lane.
Yeah, one thing to note, though, is that the Phantom Lancer, while he's already died once, he's not being shut down too badly, sitting at about 16 CS versus the Lifestealer's 19. Now, Lifestealer does need less farm to be effective in the mid-game, but this isn't the complete domination that I'm sure Fnatic hoped they would get when they picked heroes like Visage and Undying. And I think that goes to show the power of the
Going again, he's still into the Sentry Ward. Nexus taking a lot of damage with this Tombstone, should drop down. Soul Assumption not as much damage as they wanted, but a couple more right clicks should finish the job. The remainder of the support's falling back for the time being, but they got the kill they were looking for. And actually another Soul Assumption bringing Dread really low. Zombies spawn once more, and Deathlust, I believe, active on them. Era wants to go, but is just a little bit too afraid. The tower tanking up creeps, though. In the meantime, Dread pops off that salve, will regenerate. Era, kind of in no man's land right now, pops off his rage. He is closing in Dread, and there's no way for... Dread is trying to tunnel out through the trees just to get some support from his teammates here, and actually does juke out Era enough that he has to fall back for now. A nice block coming in for the Phantom Lancer, Spirit Lance, and it looks like a Lifestealer may take the first fall for Fnatic all game, not being able to finish off Dread, and nice action from them, at least making sure that they could bring down the Lifestealer, and Era just a little bit over-aggressive.
Yeah, one great part of that fight is we saw Nexus. He picked up a magic wand very early, and that's probably the most useful item to get in a 3v3, because there are a ton of spells being thrown around, and that allowed him to survive through that second Soul Assumption, which there would be no way he'd live through otherwise. And that bought them enough time that they were able to capitalize on Era's very aggressive play.
Very true, very true. And on top of that, finally the ward has expired down towards the Radiant pull camp, and with that they'll be able to deny out some waves as long as they eat through the trees and get that second pull off. But without any tangos, it looks like Solo is unfortunately just going to be inadvertently pushing his own lane as the creep wave clashes on the tower, and then both waves stack up together. So that will actually give a little bit more breathing room for Era to kind of come out on top comparatively. Look at Phantom Lancer actually CSing really nicely. This was what I was talking about. Nexus finding farm where you generally wouldn't expect it, and he's actually able to set himself himself up for 31 CS, which is nice. And up on top there, double damage is popped, and Sharfik is going to go on Hani right here. Only has one more overload. He's going to pop off the Electric Vortex, and Doom is trying to finish this off. No more mana available, but with the Scorched Earth and the right clicks, it might be enough. Sharfik's so low, the Spear Bear trying to finish him off, and the question is, will they be able to close in? The nice Entangle proc, the overload's enough though, and Sharfik is able to pick up that kill with that double damage successfully. So second point on the board, and that's setting up Storm Spirit to move in towards a bigger and better levels, as he has used that double damage room very effectively right there.
Yeah, great mana management coming out from the Storm Spirit player, not overcommitting early, not zipping too far, and that meant he had just enough to land that overload proc. In the meantime, Rubik's getting a ton of levels, not a ton of levels, but he's recovering his levels quite well in the mid lane. This is just great rotation coming from 3D Max. They know they need to get levels on the Rubik, and when you have the Storm Spirit ganking, you really should take advantage of the fact that that's an empty lane that your supports can get access to, and also prevent the Darkseer from putting too much damage on your tower.
Fly overextending a little bit on bottom lane, but using the Soul Rip, getting a Salve to keep him sustained, and yeah, just a bit, fortunately for him, the Keeper Light was not in a position to get a longer duration Illuminate coming out. The matchup between Trix and Dread actually tried to illuminate him up on the cliff, or sorry, telekinesis him up on the cliff, but to no avail, and instead has to force a TP back to the base to survive. Sharfik coming in on Fly, doing a lot of damage right here, will be able to burn him down, now turning his attention over to the Visage, and Sharfik just has to run, popping into Overload, his Small Lightning, but actually getting nuked down, was playing aggressively instead of defensively. Here comes the Infest, healing up Era. He turns around and tries to focus down on keeping the light. That rank 3 Ion Shell doing so much, actually 4, going to be able to finish off solo, no problem at all. So really, really nice exchange there, and that worked out very, very favorably for Fnatic in that. And I think 3D Clan was initiating very effectively, but after the kill on Undying, they really didn't have the focus they needed to follow up.
Yeah, there's just not quite enough damage without that Rubik being able to also commit his Fade Bolt and Telekinesis. The rotation from the Darkseer was very good, and I also believe that the Storm Spirit might have walked over the Dire Sentry Ward. Sentry Wards don't provide a lot of vision, but he was standing right on top of it, so I think they had just enough vision to be able to start moving the Darkseer in time.
Yeah, and that helped out quite a bit. Obviously, the Darkseer just burning out anybody that was nearby him, and although they didn't kill off everyone, they were able to pursue and make sure that they netted more frags than was expected of them. So they stayed on top of it, and they were able to come out really well in that exchange. We see on the gold graph in general, moving in towards 1500. It's kind of been back and forth on the experience graph, but in general, Fnatic is taking the lead for the time being. Of course, they do have to keep in mind that I would say the most scalable hero in the game right now is that Phantom Lancer. Actually, we do see that Spirit Lance bringing Fly low, but actually on top lane is when we see the action. Sharfik going down with that Doom. Hani should be taking a fall. Nice path block coming in from Sharfik, making sure they get the right auto attack damage. The Remnant does enough damage to Overload proc, and he's not going to get denied here. So nice right clicks, and now Trixie trying to turn things around, but the Scorched Earth healing Doom up enough that Trixie also has to fall back here. I don't think they're going to be able to finish him off, obviously having plenty of HP sustained, but they got the kill on the Lone Druid, which that solo kill, well, duo kill on a solo hero gives them plenty of experience. And so now with the Lone Druid sitting at 0-2-0, his bear had the Gloves of Haste, and I expect he wanted to go for the Midas, but that's not going to be an option anymore if and his current gold situation is any indication.
Yeah, Midas is never a bad item on Lone Druid because he can very much use the additional attack speed on the bear, and sometimes Midas kind of lets you slingshot yourself back into the game by just kind of getting experience. Not advantage in that case, to be behind, but is there something bot lane? Yeah,
Sharfik jumping in with Ball Lightning, going to be able to do some damage here. Era initiated intentionally a Nexus. The Tombstone is doing a lot, but unfortunately the Illuminate comes on through and drops down the Undying, now bringing down No-Tail before he can get the Soul Assumption off cooldown. They just have to deal with this Tombstone really quickly before these zombies just pull them to the grave. So they do get the last hit for Nexus, 110 gold in his wallet, and from there they actually got a bunch of kills. They got a kill on the top rune spawn on Darkseer, just out-positioned and slowed down enough to bring him down. I actually didn't catch it, but when we saw the transition towards bottom, just really, really good mobility coming out of Sharfik right here. TPing bottom, Ball Lightning in to get in the right position, and then from there, following through and getting 3 total kills in favor.
Yeah, it looks like Doom is in fact going to go for a Lothar's, already having picked up the Shadow Amulet. That's a bit of a strange item. You don't see it very often on Doombringer, but it does provide him some stats he wants, and it allows him to be able to initiate in fights. One of Doom's biggest problems is the fact he is melee, so he's not able to really get in range to apply his Doom and to deliver any right clicks, really. But the additional attack speed and the natural crit coming from the Lothars, it gives Doom a bit of burst. I'm surprised we're seeing it. I would have expected to see something a little bit more standard, perhaps a Django or, you know, a Necrobook, which solves all of Doom's mana problems. But given that he's not been leveling level death, this might be a very interesting item. I'm curious to see how it pans out.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, even if he can just close the distance, be right on top of them, get one right click, follow up with Doom, Scorched Earth, he can just stay on top of them continuously, and it will be very effective. But yeah, it's generally considered a pub-oriented item unless it's used to get in a good position for something like a Venomancer Ultimate or something along those lines. So we'll have to see. It really comes down to how Lolico is going to utilize it. But the fact of the matter is, it has quite a bit of potential, and will give him, like you said, a lot of stats that he could really use, especially the attack speed there. But in the meantime, it really
Dark's here with a Invis, and
yeah,
he's just running around. I think something's going to happen.
He needs a lot more follow-up than he currently has if he's going to try to bring down Nexus. The fact is, as far as detection goes, they have Dust on Trixie, and that'll help him out quite a bit, but it's really, they're going to more see the top lane. Handi taking a lot of damage. Sharfik going to be able to finish him off. No deny comes out. Era getting the deny, now slowing down Sharfik. Going to go in to try to bring him down with the vacuum. He assuredly will, but the telekinesis comes through, and with that, Era doesn't actually die to the rage. Needs to pop an Infest right now if he wants to get the kill. Pops off, and Trixie gets the Infest kill, but he ends up falling as well. So now a lot of Iron Shell, they have to split up, forcing Dread to be dropped down. I'm actually not sure whose Iron Shells is who with Rubik in the fray, but the fact of the matter is it's 2 for 2. The Lone Druid dive was successful enough, and then when Era came on in, although he did pick off the Storm Spirit, he also fell himself. So
yeah, and I've got to say that definitely favors the Radiant team, because the entire time Nexus was farming, and now it looks like he is in fact going to go on the Undying.
Yeah, he's pretty much just completely out. With the Spirit Lance, he will be dropped down, and actually just handing them a free Tombstone right here. There's no real threat that he could have prevented with the Tombstone, and yeah, his Phantom Lancer going to get the last hit with his Illusion to make sure that he can continuously just get tons and tons of gold, sitting now at 4270. And one thought that I had, actually up on top lane, shoot, they never stop. Trixie surging on out, but he got Electric Vortex immediately after, and it's not going to be enough, so he gets picked off as well. And it's this really... Sharfik is all over the map right here. Fnatic is just have to like constantly keep their eyes on the minimap, or they're gonna get dropped down. And there was a nice little exchange. Arrow unfortunately doesn't get the deny, as well as the Fortify coming out belatedly. So that means that there is going to be a ton more gold on the Phantom Lancer as he moves up to 4,700 net worth. But one thought that keeps on breaking because of Sharfik's awesomeness is the fact that Phantom Lancer scales so hard.
He's going me with a DD, so
yeah,
Sharfik
and no tail
continues to be awesome.
Exactly. The Gravekeeper's Cloak, not enough to keep him alive, only rank 1, and Sharfik double damage, it's too much, they can't deal with it, and as long as he has a large mana pool to support himself, he can stay on top of the enemy, just spam out that ball lightning, Vortex as he needs to, and he's not even going for a Remnant-oriented build. He doesn't need the AoE damage because he has the single target focus, as he just spams out spells and overload procs all over the place, and we see, obviously, how well it's panned out for him at 6, 2, and 3. Right now, he's doing so well.
Yep, and he's also, it looks like he's going for that Orchid, so that's just going to go and increase the amount of single target damage he has. We often see the G build on Storm Spirit, where you go for that early Arcane Boots and then into a fast Bloodstone, but I feel in this game the Storm Spirit does not want to wait that long, does not want to wait to have that kind of impact, so the fast Null Talisman providing that damage, a little bit more HP, a little bit more int, and then going straight for an Orchid. These are very early game oriented items, but as you were saying, the Phantom Lancer is going to solve all of their problems in the late game, already having that Diffusal, which, while not the fastest Diffusal, I think is very commendable given the kind of lane he was against.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a very, very painful trial lane, but he came out on top very effectively compared to the Lifestealer sitting at 66 CS. And though he has yet to top the Lone Druid, actually action in mid, Trixie taking a lot of damage, but the Vortex doesn't follow. He really wants to just get out of dodge there. Might need to juke to the east with the ball lightning. Instead taking too much damage, going southwest. Will it be enough? The Tombstone comes out. He's low mana. Actually turns it around. Trixie drops down. Too much burst. Now he just has to kill the zombie, and he gets out scot-free. Nexus just chopping away at that illusion. He's going to get the kill as well. So major kills coming out for 3D Clan right now. They're just doing so well, and No-Tail TP on him won't be able to clean anything up. So that is working out for them very, very effectively. Visage now has Familiars up and wants to do something with them, but up to this point, it's really been Sharfik all over the map, just making the plays happen, and honestly doing damage where I didn't expect it. With that big burst on Trixie, turned things around when he was in a terrible spot, and now with a regen rune, he can do anything he wants. He has so much mana to work with. He can just jump all over the map, and he can deliver so much damage even to somebody like Lifestealer. No, he's going in on No-Tail right now. The Familiars do pop off the stunned right here, but he dodges out of it, still gets stunned, popping off a lot of damage. No-Tail should be dropping down here. Just a little bit more overload is all he needs, and actually gets turned around. The Soul Assumption is too much damage. Of course, the TP is helping out. They're committing 4 heroes to counteract this one lowly Storm Spirit, but keeping No-Tail alive, that is finally a little bit of a stop of the snowball that's been kind of going with this Storm Spirit so far.
Yeah, that was a very good response from the from Fnatic, but unfortunately they're going to lose their top tower, and I believe Nexus is going to even get the last hit on that. if he goes something like a straight heart, I don't know what the Dire is going to be able to do because they don't have the damage to really deal with it right now. If you look at the Lifestealer, all he's sitting on is a Gloves of Haste and Treads. I don't think this is going to be a Midas at this point in the game. That's probably going to be going into Armlet. And similarly, let's see the Lone Druid. He did in fact get the Midas. I was saying earlier that, you know, sometimes Midas, even though it's not very well timed, is able to slingshot you back into the game. And any hero that can use the attack speed, it's still a relevant item on the bear. More attack speed means more entangle procs, and they really want entangle procs against this Phantom Lancer, against a Storm Spirit, and even the Doom, who has finished that Shadow Blade.
Absolutely. And this Roshan kill is exactly what they needed to try to get back into the game. The fact is they were really down on gold and experience, and it's just the 3D Clan doesn't seem like they're showing any signs of relenting right now, so they needed a little bit of a momentum shift, and I think they got it there with the Roshan. However, with this tier 1 falling without a fortification available, it's going to kind of give it back a little bit. Now Sharpik going on in, dodging out as best he can, trying to disjoint auto attacks. Really nice play there, but gets folded in. Vacuum and the Stone Form doing a lot of damage right now, but it is going to be Sharpik going to be able to get out of there. The Wall of Replica was quite successful as well. Lolico being open wounds up, they're in pursuit, but they really don't have enough HP to go aggressively on this, so the bear is going to take a fall for the team as they go and just hide under their tier 2, but Pawnee taking so much damage from that ball lightning overload. One more right click is all they need up the hill, but instead Sharpik going to get dropped down. No, he finishes it off. The Aegis is popped. Lolico Shadow Blades up in pursuit of Trixie here, and there is going to be the dust to come out and try to bring him down. Will Trixie fall as well? Yeah, they go and take each other down, and now there is still that towards the middle here is going to be a TP out of the Rubik right under the nose of the Lone Druid Lifestealer. Apparently Entangle proc's not coming soon enough. They did finish off the Sharpik in the end, but the fact is they popped off the Aegis the Immortal, and that kind of slows the potential of that Roshan and the benefits they gleaned from that there.
Yeah, one unfortunate thing in that team fight is the team was split off from the Keeper of the Light. That Keeper of the Light has a mechanism, and I think if he was able to mech up that Storm Spirit, they would have been able to survive and maybe even pick off another kill or two. Very, very great recovery from the Radiant supports. I would not expect they would have these kind of items if you showed me the game 6 minutes in.
Yeah, most definitely. There was definitely quite a bit of swing as far as where they came into play. Like, we see them breaking even, not even 10 minutes into the game, and they actually had a bit of a disadvantage prior to that point. But then now it just has been a huge, huge swing upwards, where they've just accumulated a lot of gold, put a lot of kills on the board, come from behind, and instead just say, okay, well, we have a certain timing where we are at our best. We have a lot of mobility. Storm Spirit can set things up, and the second he sees somebody out of position, Sharpik is able to initiate, and now using Remnant to try to get some clear vision, sees Fly, pulls him in, so much damage coming out with that DD. He gets, this is like a third DD, does unfortunately still get stunned out, and he might fall. He is a very low life, pops off the magic wand, trying to get away from these zombies that just continue their pursuit. Now they full in with the recall. Lolico is here, ready to jump on in with that Shadow Blade and Nexus. Actually, there was that was that a vacuum or telekinesis? I'm not sure. It must have been a stolen vacuum. That, yeah, it indeed was. So putting them up on the cliff, that does cost Lone Druid his life, and Vacuum kind of beating out, Darkseer beating out his own game, putting them on impassable terrain. They did get dropped down with only one successful TP.
Yeah, and if you look at it, 3D Max is really trying to go and cement their advantage right now. Nexus isn't going for that hard at all. He's going for the drums himself. And it's a very early game oriented build. We saw this coming out in G League a few times from LGD China. They would go for the Diffusal, then pick up drums and upgrade. He already has the Diffusal level 2. This is a very early game oriented Phantom Lancer play. It goes and allows him to do a ton of damage super early on, gives his team the great aura that they want, especially that Doombringer, because it stacks so nicely with his Scorched Earth. It's going to be tremendously difficult for Fnatic to pick a fight since they don't even have the mechanism on their Darkseer yet.
Now, one thing to keep in mind is that does, of course, delay the Heart of Tarrasque on the Phantom Lancer, which means that generally speaking, I would consider Fnatic's army and their entire team lineup not to be very AoE-oriented. Shadow Blade keeping Doom alive for the time being. Blinding Light comes out. Sharpik doing a lot of good initiation. The Doom comes out on Trixie. Cannot pop off more, but the ultimate's already down. Now, there's just so much damage across. Zombies spawning everywhere. Huge soul rips coming out, and Sharpik on such low life, but Hani lifted up, going to be dropped down to start. Now they're trying to pursue on top of that. No Tail doesn't have any mana to Soul Assumption out, so Doom might be able to finish this off with the Spirit Lance. They are indeed going to kill him. So that is 2 kills on the board. Nice telekinesis to set up the Hani kill, and then Visage falling as well. So that is good game called, and I understand it. I mean, Phantom Lancer easily going to out-carry them in the late game, and with this huge, huge momentum, 10k gold, and almost that much in experience, I gotta say, 3D Clan really made this game happen when it hit the mid-game. 10-minute mark, they just shot up and completely took over and control, and MVP Sharpik IMO.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like Sharpik played exactly what he needed to do, put a lot of pressure on so his team could just get that advantage in the early game. He went and bailed out the Doom, who was losing top lane, keeping up a decent gold, but eventually, once that Lone Druid hit level 5, Doom was shut down. But Sharpik, a lot of great ganks top. They were losing the tri-lane bot. Sharpik came down, set up a couple kills and allowed the Phantom Lancer to catch up. I would also like to say Nexus did a tremendous job farming. In that kind of position where you're being heavily pressured, it's difficult to keep yourself alive and go and be able to get the CS that you need. But he very, very skillfully managed to do both.
Very true, very true. So he was able to stay on top of farm despite the 3v3, got some really good items, and like you said, he didn't go for the late game build, although Fnatic didn't really have the cleave to stop him if he did get very tanky illusions. The fact is, he knew that his team had this momentum, they were able to go forward and just push aggressively, team fight very powerfully, and the drum and defusal enabled them to do that along with items like Mechanism and things along those lines. But all in all, Sharpik with, 14 participation out of their 19, I mean, he was all over the board. He was involved in almost every kill, and I gotta say, yeah, he really made things happen. It's not like the mid hero lost the lane tremendously. Trixie didn't have that bad of time, but it was just really Windstorm Spirit got all those runes, started ganking aggressively, and used them to their maximum. So I gotta say, he played it well, and a little bit lucky with I think 3 double damage runes in this 22-minute game.
Yeah, it was pretty insane. But it's not that I don't think that his impact would have been considerably less. He might have gotten less solo kills without those double damage. Remember the Visage kill on the mid lane, but the majority of his great plays I think carried his team. Where when he went and engaged in team fights very early on, before a lot of Storm Spirits would like to, and those pulls and that overload charges, were the necessary elements for them to win those team fights.
Anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll go on into game 2 of this best of 3 in just a minute.